Hi there. Today we're going to be doing a center lock wheel change on a Porsche 991 GT3. I've bought a new set of OZ Ultraleggera HLT wheels for the track, and I want to go ahead and get those put on today. Alright, to perform a center lock change, a myriad of tools are required for this. It's not as simple, unfortunately, as a 5-lug setup. So I'm going to briefly go over the tools that we're going to use today. The first tool is a tool that actually comes with the car. It's located underneath your socket, and this is the tool that pops off the center cap as well as jiggles the safety lock if necessary in order to get it to come out. You're also going to obviously need your socket that's located underneath your frunk lid. I went ahead and purchased a Precision Instruments breaker bar torque wrench combo, which I would recommend. It seems to be what most of the guys are buying. I've got a set of wheel chocks for the front wheels. I will be using jack point jack stands today. I'm going to be using a set of race ramps, a towel which I will then put over the seat for when I'm using the spreader clamp in order to hold the brake pedal down. You can see my jack. It's one of the cheap Pittsburgh jacks, 150 bucks. Then you've got the spreader clamp, you've got gloves, and you've got the always important Optimal grease, which you need. It's actually an aluminum paste. So those are the tools that we're going to use today. The other thing I can't stress enough is to take a look at your user manual. Alright, we got the car up on the jack point jack stands. It was actually easier than I thought it would be. A little bit dicey. The frame is so rigid that when you jack up one corner of the car, the whole darn side comes off the ground. So I followed Renlister Mike in California's advice. I jacked up the rear while chalking the front wheels first, and then I moved on to the fronts, and everything seemed to go pretty smooth. It took about, I don't know, 15 minutes being uber cautious. So there you have it. The car is now off the ground. Oh, by the way, I used the race ramps on the rear in order to get the height that I needed back there. It seemed to work out pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and move on to popping the center caps off. Alright, so I elected to do the right rear first, kind of going with one of the easiest ones first, just so I can feel what this is all about. So we're going to go ahead and take our little center lock cap tool and pop off the center lock cap. Be careful not to scratch this. Here you can go ahead and you can see your locking mechanism, and you can pay a special note that this locking mechanism is almost flush with this lip. So when you put these back on, it's really important that this locking mechanism is flush. Not too bad. I would elect to pull up instead of push down. It's a little bit easier to control. And there you have it. Now you can go ahead and pay special note. You can see how much of this aluminum paste is actually on all these components. Upon reading the spec, it does actually call for a fairly liberal amount on the threads, as well as this seat, both inside and on the bolt. Another thing you want to make sure of when you're pulling these off is they actually make a centering pin, which most of you probably know about, that screws on and that actually guides the wheel off, because the last thing you want to do is have this wheel drop down and either chip a caliper if you've got steel brakes, or the biggest concern seems to be around the PCCBs and chipping a rotor. Alright, we're just going to go ahead and do a quick inspection of the hub surface, the little nipples, and then we're going to look at the wheel. I do have a document that Mike Carter or M. Drum sent over to me, and I'm really appreciative of that, from Renlist, which I can forward to you, or he can, that goes through and talks about the different inspection areas for the center locks. So one of the things that they want you to pay attention to first and foremost is go ahead and look at the hub face. You want to make sure that there are no pitting in this area, there are no gouges, nothing uneven. You want to look at these nipples. You want to make sure that smooth. There's no uneven wearing. There's no contact points that look unusual. The other thing you want to make sure of is, see this little band here where you can actually see the paste? It's at least 10 millimeters wide. And this is really something that they talk a lot about, because you're going to see this transfer not only to here, but you're going to see it on your locking bolt, and you're also going to see it on the inside of your wheel. So we can go ahead and look, and we can see that everything looks normal there. You have a fairly even contact patch all the way around. We're going to go ahead and look at our bolt, and we can see a lot of the same. There's nothing uneven about it. There's no unusual marks or wear. And then going over to the wheel, see if I can get that out of the light for you. You can see the same. You've got that 10 millimeter-ish wide band. What you're looking for is you want to make sure that there's, again, it's not uneven. And the other piece is that you're not looking for a band that's very narrow, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So here's that document, and it goes ahead and it shows that this is good and this is bad, right? See the very narrow ring at the top, assuming that that's the only contact point for the bolt. This is the wheel seat. Sorry about that. And that's it. So again, looking over at the wheel, you can see you've got your even contact patch there, and then in turning it around, you can see that the back of the wheel is very clean. That's nothing but, those are just marks. There's no ridges or any type of indentation or rubbing on the back of the wheel. It feels nice and smooth. So those are the things you want to look out for when you take your wheel off each time. Just a quick inspection of all those parts and make sure that everything's in good order. Alright, in my case I'm installing a set of new wheels. So one of the things that I had to do was use that Optimal paste and actually lubricate the seat, which you can see I went ahead and did. Put a nice thin but smooth layer on there. The other thing I did is I went ahead and took the bolt, did the same thing. I knocked down all the higher edges of lubricant around there, smoothed it all out so that it's ready to go back on. They talk about lubricating these threads as well, but again, 1,500 miles, no hard driving on this car really, and you can see that there's plenty of lubricant in there. It's clean, there's no contaminants, so I'm going to go ahead and roll with that. So we're going to go ahead and put the first wheel on. Another thing that I want to say is that you guys may have been wondering so far is, well, when's he going to use the clamp? I have not used the clamp yet, and the reason for that is you don't need the clamp on the rear wheels. I have the parking brake on, and it's really easy to deal with the rears without that. So when we move on to the front, I will go ahead and use the clamp. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take our bolt, get it back on there. Alright, so we've got our nut back on, so we're just going to kind of work that up. You want to be careful. There is a little retaining ring in here, and there's a little rubber lip. You want to be careful not to damage this. So again, just be cautious. Don't run this bolt up there carelessly, which I don't see how you could anyway. Alright, so I've turned it far enough to where the locking mechanism actually is engaged. So now, I can't turn it any further. So now I need to go ahead and use the socket. So what I've got here is I've assembled the precision torque wrench. I've set it to 440 foot-pounds of torque. I've actually set it to 445. It's kind of in between the 10 and the 50, just for good measure. I can see how it'd be really easy to hit the side of your car doing this. So, you know, you're dealing with some heavy tools. Just pay special attention. There we go. Alright. So now it's important that once you actually achieve torque, you need to go ahead and back it off. They say 60 degrees, or if you do a quarter turn, which is 90 degrees, Mike in California was quick to point that out for me, then you just go ahead and re-torque back to spec after that. So the only unfortunate thing about having one socket is I have to switch back to the breaker bar to do that. Alright, I've got my breaker bar set back up. Alright, we're going to go ahead and apply some torque. Now we'll check our locking mechanism, and you can see that I'm out there flush. So that is a successful center lock change. Well, it was. I thought I was right. Oh, well. There it is. Alright guys, to do the rear wheels, all you have to do is have the parking brake set on, but in order to do the front wheels, you need to actually engage the brake. And so we're going to do this using a Irwin spreader clamp, and I'm actually going to do it with the engine running, so I'm going to click off for a minute, get it set, then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so what we've done is we've taken this Irwin clamp, we've turned it around to turn it into a spreader. I went ahead and laid a towel down so it doesn't scuff up my seat or get grease on it. I went ahead and fired it up, pumped the brake a handful of times, and then went ahead and set the brake. And in doing so, these suckers aren't going anywhere. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is just perform the same wheel lock change that we did before. There's nothing else different about the fronts other than the fact that they are real light, so you know, if you start torquing on them, they start moving around, you may need your wife or a buddy to come out and hold on to the steering wheel. Other than that, you know, everything's the same. Alright, well there you have it. A Porsche 991 center lock wheel change.